Now, the United Nations is condemning the atrocities uncovered in a joint investigation into the conflict in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. The report, which in fact came out in the last 45 minutes, found all parties in the Tigray conflict have committed violations of international human rights. This comes as Ethiopia launches another airstrike on the war-torn Tigray region. CNN's Larry Mado joins me now live from Nairobi. And good morning to you, Larry. I was listening to Michelle Bachelet of the UN, who's been speaking in the last 10 minutes or so, and she said, I'm going to read it out, what she said, there are reasonable grounds, she says, to believe that all parties to the conflict in Tigray have, to varying degrees, committed violations of international human rights, humanitarian refugee law, some of which may amount to war crimes, crimes against humanity. And what she kept on repeating, Larry, were calls for accountability here.
That's correct, Isa. And she says the parties to this conflict need to end hostilities, need to allow humanitarian access, and there needs to be an investigation, because their report, this UN Human Rights Office and Ethiopian Human Rights Commission report, covers from 3rd November, when the conflict began, until June 28th, when Ethiopia declared a unilateral ceasefire. And they're saying, if you look through the findings, it's a long list of things that CNN has been reporting on extensively: detentions, sexual violence, and killings that bear the hallmarks of genocide. These are just some of the issues from the report: attacks against civilians and indiscriminate attacks, unlawful or extrajudicial killings and executions, torture, widespread arbitrary detentions, pillage, looting and destruction, forcible displacement of civilians. Now you understand, Isa, why this conflict has already killed thousands of people, and now it's spilled over into neighboring regions of Amhara and Afar, and there are real concerns that the Tigrayan fighters might be advancing into the capital, Addis Ababa. That is why yesterday the Ethiopian government declared a state of emergency nationwide. This is how it explains why it had to do so.
The country is now faced with a national threat which challenges its sovereignty. The Council of Ministers found it necessary to declare a state of emergency to deal with the current security situation in the country.
So while there's concern that this conflict is expanding instead of coming to a close, the Ethiopian government has now started airstrikes for the 3rd straight week. We just saw this update from the government saying the Ethiopian Air Force targeted Adi Bukre, that's a military training center for what they call the terrorist group TPLF, located near Adi Hagirai, and they claim that large numbers of illegally recruited personnel were taking military trainings in the center for, again, the terrorist group, which is how the Ethiopian government refers to the TPLF. I spoke to a friend in Addis this morning who says despite the state of emergency, people are going back through their lives as normal, people are going to school, but make no mistake, this state of emergency will allow for detentions, the media, the civil society might be curtailed. It's a very significant development, Isa.